Ford is rumored to be actively recruiting existing NASCAR teams. Are we overhyping Shane Van Gisbergen and other international drivers? And NASCAR just released something really freaking cool. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove, midweek edition of the show. And boy, we have a ton of ground to cover. If this is your first time tuning in, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss any of the latest NASCAR news, rumors, commentary. The playoffs are right around the corner. Ford has won 3 NASCAR Cup Series races in a row, yet surprisingly, none of those 3 wins have come from either Team Penske or Stewart-Haas. Instead, RFK appears to be on the rise once again. Perhaps Front Row now is as relevant as they've ever been. I was listening to the Door Bumper Clear podcast this week, and hosts Brett Griffin and Freddie Kraft, both industry spotters, both are typically plugged into what's going on behind the scenes, and in their latest episode, they dropped hints that Ford's NASCAR roster may look quite a bit different in the next couple of years. Brett Griffin said, quote, "There's a lot of conversations going on with OEM movement. Obviously, Legacy has moved. There's a lot of talk about what Stewart-Haas is going to do in a couple of years. What does Front Row do in a couple of years? Even Colleague, what do they do in a couple of years?" And then Freddie Kraft chimed in, "Ford is shopping. There are teams that would surprise people that are being approached by Ford to come over there." Those comments got me wondering which current NASCAR teams may benefit the most from a potential manufacturer swap, because each manufacturer has different tiers to their NASCAR program. Like with Chevy, you've got Hendrick, RCR Trackhouse, they're that top tier, they're getting the most support. Then you have teams like Colleague, Spire, JTG, not getting quite the same level of support. Legacy Motor Club obviously is moving from Chevy to Toyota next year, and it makes a ton of sense because right now they are a floundering fringe Chevy team. They're like probably 5th or 6th in the pecking order. They're not part of that top tier. By moving to Toyota next year, they'll become part of Toyota's big 3. Like JGR, 2311, both get direct support from Toyota Racing Development. Next year, you can add Legacy Motor Club to that mix. So on the surface, at least, that move seems like a no-brainer. I expect Legacy Motor Club, at least over time, to be more competitive. But there are some teams where I pause and say, hey, the grass may not always be greener, like JTG Doherty Racing. They're having a fantastic year. They've been top 15 in points with Ricky Stenhouse. They won the Daytona 500. I've never been to the shop, but I've heard Ricky Stenhouse and others talk about the resources this team has. It sounds like this year is how that team should have been running all along. They've improved a lot this year. You factor in Kroger's seemingly unwavering support. That's a team that may be sending a strong message to Chevy that, hey, we're worthy of more manufacturer support. Maybe JTG can start to afford better engine plans. JTG Doherty has taken a huge step forward this year. Their good relationship with Chevy could become great. So I'd be worried about, switching to Ford or Toyota. And I'm not saying that's something JTG is considering. I'm just using them as an example of a team that I don't believe necessarily needs a manufacturer change at this point. But there are some teams that I think should explore other options, like Stewart-Haas Racing. And this is a weird one because I think they are part of that top tier Ford program. Like it's Penske, RFK, it's Stewart-Haas. But I don't know what's going on at Stewart-Haas Racing. They've had maybe 2 races this year where as a team they all looked good. Is it a leadership problem? Are they too hands off? I know they've swapped some crew chiefs around. They've introduced 2 new drivers each of the past 2 seasons. Maybe it's just a Ford problem, but I began this segment by saying Ford's won 3 races in a row. Just hasn't been Stewart-Haas Fords. I hate to throw even more changes at this team, but at this point, Stewart-Haas Racing may need just a full, clean, hard reset, and switching manufacturers may give them that opportunity. DBC mentioned Front Row Motorsports by name as another Ford team that potentially could look elsewhere in the next couple of years, and I'd be careful. Like JTG Doherty with Chevy, Front Row seems to be a team on the rise. We know they're bringing back Michael McDowell, Todd Gilliland for their 3rd year together, so this team is building a solid, stable foundation. Switching manufacturers could disrupt all of that. I'd be afraid of trying to fix what may not be broken right now, but that being said, and I guess this could go for JTG Doherty as well, but in 2015, Furniture Row Racing ran Chevys. They paired up Cole Pearn, Martin Truex Jr., and had a tremendous year. Out of nowhere, Furniture Row Racing won a race and made it all the way to the championship 4. Everything was clicking, moving the right direction. And then they switched to Toyota. They formed that JGR alliance the very next year. That could have disrupted everything good they had going for them. Instead, it wound up being a great decision, at least performance-wise, because 2 years later, as a Toyota team, Furniture Row Racing won the Cup Series championship. Now, from a business standpoint, may not have been the right call because a few years after that, the team went under. But as far as on-track success is concerned, switching manufacturers did not disrupt Furniture Row Racing's momentum. So maybe that could motivate a team like Front Row, who seems to be trending the right way now, to take that risk, to take that jump, join a rival manufacturer, especially since overall this year, not the past 3 weeks, but overall this year, Ford seems to have lagged behind Toyota and Chevy just a tad. We'll see. I just wanted to throw out some suggestions. I want to know what you think down in the comment section below. What team, if any, do you believe has the best chance of switching manufacturers sometime in the next 2 years? We're about to debut an all-new segment, but first, NASCAR did something really cool last night I want to mention. They revealed an all-new NASCAR Classics webpage. If you visit classics.nascar.com, they have the greatest 75 races in NASCAR history available to watch. In some cases, in tremendous video quality. They've set it up so that you have, chapters on the side, a timeline where you can scroll through and pick out the key highlights. I've only clicked around a little bit, but there are some great races, fully restored, fully ready to view here in the year 2023. Definitely going to have a lot of these races on in the background while I'm editing. Hopefully set aside some time to watch some of these old classic races that maybe I've never seen or haven't seen in a long, long time. This isn't a sponsored segment or anything, but I just thought this was really cool. I saw a lot of fans talking about it last night on social media. This is an awesome thing that NASCAR has put together, and hopefully fans take full advantage of it. Be sure to go check that out. Classics.nascar.com. Go have some fun. Now it's time for an all-new segment. I get hundreds and hundreds of comments on every single video I do, and contrary to popular belief, I do read the vast majority of them. I may reply here and there, but I don't get the chance to respond directly to many of your comments. I wanted to incorporate your comments into these videos a bit more, so now here on Out of the Groove, we're going to take a comment from Out of the Crowd. This comment came from my most recent episode where in that episode, I said Kyle Larson may be the closest thing we have to a modern-day AJ Foyt. Obviously, he's won a Cup Series championship recently. Just this past weekend, he won the Knoxville National Saturday night, turned around and finished top 10 at the Indy Road Course in a stock car on Sunday. He's about to run the Indianapolis 500 next year, do the Coke 600, do the double on the same day. This comment from Cole1528 gave a different opinion. He said, modern day AJ Foyt, that's gotta be Smoke. Smoke is a NASCAR champion, SRX champion, Indy champion, and has run numerous sprint car races and NHRA races. Smoke has participated in so many forms of American motorsport and is still racing today. You won't get too much argument from me. Now, I do consider Tony Stewart maybe to be the generation before Kyle Larson. I did say this generation. Larson's success in dirt should not be discounted, but what Tony Stewart was able to do in open wheel racing early in his career and then still make that transition to stock car racing was extremely impressive. Now, someone replied to Cole and said that Tony Stewart and Kyle Larson have 0 Daytona 500, Indy 500, or Le Mans 24-hour wins. So no, there is only one AJ Foyt. He is one of a kind, absolutely. Like I said, though, Kyle Larson is probably the closest modern equivalent we have. But like Tony Stewart, honestly, Larson still has ways to go. I appreciate the comments, though. Everyone offering their opinion, a different perspective. Be sure to leave your own comment on this episode, and there's a chance we'll take your comment out of the crowd on the next episode of Out of the Groove. Now, lastly, a couple days ago, I read an article from AutoWeek written by Al Pierce, and the headline read, Van Gisbergen effect of international ringers fails to match the NASCAR hype at Brickyard. I'll put a link to the full article down in the description below, but the article asks a simple question. What did NASCAR gain from having 5 international stars on the road course at Indy this past weekend? Al Pierce writes, did viewers in Australia and New Zealand tune in to watch Van Gisbergen and Kostecki and to be exposed to Cup for the first time? Is Button still big enough in Europe to attract eyeballs to the 9:30 p.m. start of a NASCAR telecast race? Kobayashi might be huge in FIA and in his homeland, but was anyone in Tokyo paying attention? I saw a lot of folks on Twitter kind of criticizing this article and the sort of condescending, cynical tone it takes. And I don't really agree with it either. Regardless of how well they performed, I know SVG was the only international star, minus Daniel Suarez, to finish inside the top 10. Isn't it cool that champions from other major motorsport series wanted to race in NASCAR, and at least in a couple of cases did pretty well? But the question the article asks is still somewhat valid. What did NASCAR gain by having these international stars on the entry list? The Indy road course race was down 15% in viewership here in the United States. Some of that may be due to several NBC affiliates choosing to show NFL preseason games instead, but still not a great start. I don't think the immediate numbers matter all that much. I see this more as the beginning of a slow, gradual transition. From Garage 56 at Le Mans to Shane Van Gisbergen at Chicago to whatever comes next, NASCAR is hoping to slowly earn the respect of the international racing community and is hoping to potentially build a legitimate fan base overseas. Does the casual US viewer care about Brody Kostecki, Kamui Kobayashi, Jenson Button, who was big in F1 before the popularity boom here in the States? Americans had never heard of Shane Van Gisbergen before Chicago. The answer is no, they don't. But having these drivers on the entry list, excited to be in NASCAR, does help legitimize this sport across the world. F1 is seen as the pinnacle. NASCAR is still seen as insular and unpolished. It will take time, years potentially, to change that narrative. But that's where drivers like the Kobayashis of the world, the Jenson Buttons of the world, the Mike Rockenfellers of the world, that's where they come into play. That's where they help. The biggest sports in the world are going global. Soccer has always been that way, but you look at Messi and how he's moved the needle since coming to America. The NBA has been global for a long time. Nearly every television set in the country of Japan was tuned in this spring to watch Shohei Ohtani take on the US baseball team at the World Baseball Classic. The NFL plays games in London and Germany now. Formula One is the biggest motorsport series in the world and continues to grow its presence here in the States. NASCAR trying to legitimize their product to the world is just smart business. It's seeing the trends and reacting accordingly. Kobayashi, Kostecki, they may not move the needle much here in the United States, but they do capture the attention of race fans across the world. And over time, these drivers will have a positive impact on stock car racing. It's not going to happen overnight. These are the beginnings of a slow, gradual shift. So the question that Auto Week asks there is fair, but I don't think they came to the correct conclusion. Just me personally. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I know we covered a lot of ground in this episode. Debuted a new segment. I hope you guys enjoy that. We'll work on it going forward. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Be sure to hit that subscribe button again if you're new and you love all things NASCAR. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. I couldn't do this show without your very generous support. I will see you all again likely tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Take care. Take it easy. I'll see you again soon.